Hello, fellow gunners. Tim here at the reloading bench. I want to do a different approach to these shotgun powders. Now, I'm going to be using the 410 Alliant. Before, I've been loading and I've been thinking, okay, I'm going to use the loading data on this powder I think it's closest to. I've decided that's the wrong approach. What I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you here on this burn rate chart. Now here's the powder we're going to be using. And it is Alliant 410. Okay? Now you'll see right here, the Hodgins long shot is faster than it is. And then below it is the Alliant 2400, which is slower. Right. Long shot's faster. 2400 slower. Now, what I was thinking was we want to use this 410 to take the place of the 2400. But since it's between these two and I have no experience with it, I'm going to use the long shot data first. Okay. There's another burn chart. Burn rate chart. Shows the same thing. Okay. Now, if I look in my Hodgins reloading manual, and I'm going to be loading a 170 grain bullet. Well, of course I dropped it. Hang on a second. We're going to be using this bullet right here. An RCBS. It's 162 grain, the mode is. Semi-wad cutter. But now when I cast it, it comes out 170. This one's powder coated without a gas check. And I also have them in a traditional with the gas check. So with that said, using a 170 grain bullet, I'm looking in the Hodgins loading data here. It's got a 180 grain bullet here with a long shot. And it's showing a max charge of 7.2 grains of long shot. And then with the 158 grain bullet, which is continued from the other page, wherever it's at, long dot or long shot, it shows 8.4. Okay. Knowing that I know this powder is slower than long shot, so I know them loadings are safe. So with that said, I'm going to let's see where our 24 is. Let me highlight that real quick so you can see it easier. Let's go with the 170 grain. All right, here's my Alliant chart. 170 grain gold dot. It's showing a max charge of 14.5 grains of 2400. All right. What we're going to do, what I'm going to do, and guys, I can't stress this enough. You have to know the limit of your firearm. You have to know when you start seeing pressure signs, you need to stop. So, like I said, if I use the long shot data up to 8.4 grains, I'm pretty sure I'm safe. But like I said, I'm going to load up to that and see how it looks. And then if everything looks good, then we're going to go even higher until we start seeing a little bit of pressure, because I am shooting a 357 Magnum. All right. I want to show you in my Lyman book, 2400. That's a start charge of 9.7. Okay, that's start. And then it ends up with 13.5 grains. And that's with a 168 grain bullet. Now the design's quite a bit different. This one has more nose on it than it does base. And this bullet that we're going to be using, that I'm going to be using, has got more base than nose. So that reduces the powder charge, because pressure will build faster because there's not as much space there to build pressure. So guys, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to start with 7 grains. We're going to go up to 8.5 with this new 410 powder from Alliant. And then if we don't see any pressure and everything looks good, then we'll go from there, probably 0.3 grain intervals until either I see pressure or we just need to start over again. All right. That's what I'm doing. So we're going to get to loading. All right, guys, here's what the powder looks like. It's I expected it to be a flake powder, but it looks more like a finely cut, extruded powder. Strange. This is really a different kind of powder for me. So you can see this one right there. It's not really what I would call a flake powder. This is the 410 by Alliant. All right, guys. Now, here's what I'm going to do with this loadings. Oh, got a shadow. Only the shadow knows. I'm going to start with 7 grains and go up to 8.2 with this 170 grain bullet. All right. Our casings, we're going to be using the Starline brass, the same brass we've been using, and S&B primers until I run out. I've already sized, primed, and flared. Get that there. Flared the mouth. I'm using a RCBS flaring tool, which actually goes down in the case quite a ways and opens that up and then flares the mouth. Got a charge here ready. See how it sets down in there? Goes right up to the first. I forgot to change my expanding die to my seating die. Hang on. All right, guys. The last time I used this seeding die, we were loading the 130 grain NOE hollow point. And now we're loading the semi-wad cutter. Go ahead, and I'm going to take a loaded round already and set my seeding stem. Oh, that don't seem right. Yeah. There it is. Come down on it faster than I thought. All right. I'll take that, put in there as square as we can. And there it is. I don't have much of a crimp on that. If any, really. Not much of a crimp. But now if you'll notice, down along right in here, you can see a little bit of a bulge. I believe that's because the bullet sets down in there, and plus that it is sized at 357.5. All right, guys. All the rest of them's going to look the same because I'm not going to change anything. We're going to go, well, you've seen the paper. 3 grain intervals, 7 grain, 7.3, 7.6, 7.9, and 8.2. And then I'll see you at the range. All right, guys. Back from the range. There's no range footage. Any of you ever have a gut feeling or I don't know. I had the word there a minute ago and I forgot it. But anyway, a gut feeling that something just isn't right. And okay, here's the deal. So I've loaded these shells using what I think is extremely light start. From what Alliant has for their 2400 is 14 and a half grains for 170 grain gold dot. Now, I know that's talking about a jacketed bullet, but still, it's 14 grains. And I'm starting out at 7 grains of this 410. Now, knowing that the 410 is not the 2400, and I'm wanting to start safe and low. Okay, so I decided the cameraman stayed home anyway. So I didn't have a way to hold the camera. And it was cloudy, misty, sometimes even sprinkling. Just really didn't feel like videoing it, so I didn't video it. And it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, because here's what happened. The first 2 shots, and I'm going to show you, was 7 grains of this 410. Right here. And the 3rd shot never left the barrel. Well, it did later, but at the time it was shot, it didn't leave the barrel. Now, I noticed when I shot these 2, it was kind of a... And I knew then that it was undercharged. And also, if you guys will remember, I was talking about the crimp, that I didn't crimp it. Okay. This is a good point, and this is something that needs to be covered. When you shoot a slower burning powder, you have to make sure you have a good crimp. Because what happens, and that's what's happened in this case right here, there's not enough powder to get full ignition. It's not igniting properly. Okay, so what happens in this case, if you don't have a good strong crimp, which probably in this case may have been a good thing, but anyway, it tends to, when the firing pin hits the primer, it tends to push the powder. And if that powder don't ignite, it actually hits the back of the bullet and forces it out, and then it may ignite, and then it pushes it farther out. But in the case of the third round here, it pushed the bullet out and did not ignite, throwing the powder onto the shooting bench and lodging the bullet into the barrel. Okay. Now, see, this is the feeling I had going to the range, that, okay, this just feels too light to me. This powder charge just feels too light. So, I didn't even go with a 7.3. Not really wanting to waste my time. And I've got, okay, there's something I didn't cover when at the first of this video, the first segment of this video, is I loaded 3 more 5-shot rounds with the traditional, with a gas check. Now, they are sized .358 because it's done in my lubricizer. The lubricizing die is .358. And the ones that are powder coated were done in my Lee push through, which is supposed to be .358, but it's 3.575. Okay. With that said, so I started with the traditional at 7.6. So, not really wanting to jump up to the 7.9. Okay, we'll try the 7.6. And here's what happened on the 7.6. But now the whole time that I'm shooting this, excuse me, I'm noticing that my ignition is not consistent. You can tell. Some are louder, some are not. You can just tell. The recoil's not the same. You can just tell, guys. So the ignition in this is not the same. That would have changed had I put a bigger crimp on it, a stronger crimp, a heavier crimp. So then after that, we went to the 7.9. Still yet. Okay. Now you can see this impact right here. All right. Well, that was one that was just not up to snuff. You can tell, see, it didn't even punch the paper. It just kind of ripped the paper. All right. And then, let's see. And I'm sorry that it shot off the target, but it hit the frame. It hit the target frame right here. So, all right. So, it hit the frame. It made actually a pretty good group. But now, I'm probably going to have to make me a new target frame because it splintered it pretty good. But anyway, so 8.2 with the powder coat. wasn't a bad start. Wasn't a bad start. Okay. Now, let's go with the traditional. Still, with the 7.6, not consistent. This is just, the charge is too light. Now with the 7.9, it's getting better. There's actually 3 shots right here. And then one here and one here. So it's getting better, but it's still inconsistent. Then, now this is a traditional with the gas check, size 0.358. There's my group with 8.2 grains. So it's getting better. So the next time I test this powder, they're everywhere. The 410, Alliant 410, with this bullet, and it's the 170 grain bullet. I'm going to start with, since we ended with 8.2, I'm going to start with 8.5 and go above 9 and see what that does, and then we'll go from there. I want to work on this cautiously. I don't want to do like I've been doing with the 2028 and having to pull bullets because the pressures are just there before I want them to be. So, or shoot them and have pressure build up in my gun. All right, guys, that's my findings with this 410 powder so far. So, till next time, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.